In today's video I'm going to take you on a art trail around Stowmarket, and the art trail is called Tinklers Quest.
The campaign, local community campaign, was to try and protect and raise awareness about a small field which lives next door to our land, running through this valley, and historically the field was called Tinklers Meadow.
Well, that's the flower for dementia, and to my mind it's there without the message, and how wonderful that it's on a painting there for forever. If someone's living with dementia, for people to feel valued and included, and to have it in the middle of a wonderful painting as the flower of forget-me-nots and the dementia, then to me that was really special, Judith.
It's the story of one person, this little girl called Mary Mount, came alive to me to the point where I still find it hard to talk about it, because the reality of her life and her death at the age of 12, it was very, very sad, but it made history.
Walks and wonders. Discover your world.
There are 9 paintings in all, I think, located in different places around the town. I say 9 paintings, but a lot of the paintings, if not all, have a little sort of sidekick painting, a smaller one that relates to the big one, but we'll come to that. So all these paintings were done by one artist, the artist Lois Cordelia.
So my name's Lois Cordelia. I'm a freelance artist. I work in many different mediums, styles and scales. I do a lot of painting. I'm probably best known as a speed painter with acrylics, with palette knife and lots of colour and a brush, and a big brush, and lots of movement. But equally I can sort of scale down to sort of intricate miniature work, cutting out of paper using a surgical scalpel.
The art trail is called Tinklers Quest, and I'll come to the reason for that in a moment. But first we're on the recreation ground, because the first of the hidden paintings is in the cafe on the wreck. Let's go there, see if they're open, and see if we can find the painting, or paintings if we can find both. Inspired by the timeless symbol of the Tree of Life, this painting links Stowmarket's legacy with an array of individuals, more than half of whom are directly connected with the town, and also references many more people and places through the inclusion of other imagery, flora and fauna. Whose portraits would you include in your Stow Story Tree of Life? So now I'm off to find the second location, which I believe is the Whole Food shop, Benita's Whole Foods. Just while we're walking there, I wanted to tell you that this whole art project is the brainchild of Judith Thompson, who's, although she's a Geordie, she has lived here for decades and owns a piece of land that abuts the museum land. And her and her husband Steve manage that for biodiversity, so obviously she's got an interest in nature and the wildlife corridor that goes through her land, and Judith has heavily influenced their content.
We decided on visual art, and at first it was going to be in a place, but we had no place. So between us we came up with the idea, look, if we got some venues who were willing to host paintings, and so then the work began on finding the venues, but we commissioned Lois. And actually a trail and going around places is a really great way, as you know, to discover Stowmarket. You're better going on your feet and walking and looking and seeing and making your own connections. So we did come up with a list of key principles, things we wanted. So we wanted to make sure there was magic, intrigue, wide appeal across the ages. Something in every painting had to have a landscape element, a biodiversity element, and images that were known in Stowmarket through time. If there were any big events that were recorded, they had to appear in some way. And then our research, something of Danecroft had to be in every painting. So we had a list of things that had to be included, and so we commissioned Lois and she accepted.
The actual paintings, I think I did over about 10 days, 2 weeks, very intensely, because I was on the verge of moving house at the time and I had to squeeze it in before I left. So I was literally painting around the clock, which was quite something. The planning process before that took probably as long, if not longer, which was piecing together all of the elements that Judith had sent me, reference images of all kinds, which I then slotted together, assembled in a digital format, first of all, to create what I call a mock-up, which I then work from based on when I come to do the painting.
So the Benita's shop is down near the traffic lights, near the marketplace on Tavern Street. Let's see if we can find the paintings that are located at their shop. As it turned out, both of the paintings were visible in the shop window. The main painting is called A Greener Future. It's a simple composition that connects Benita's shop front with Helen Whittaker's beautiful stained glass window of a wheatsheaf design in the parish church. Lois has reinterpreted both in a style full of iridescent colours and textures to suggest the rich bounty of nature. Next painting is located at the John Peel Centre. I think it's in the John Peel Cafe at the moment. At this venue I couldn't actually see the paintings, but I asked around and apparently they were in the meeting room, which is just off the cafe. The main painting here is called Round and About, and it reflects that time can be viewed in a linear fashion or in a cyclical pattern of minutes, hours, days, months, years, centuries. These patterns are echoed in the circular shape of clocks, sundials and wheels, and embodied in the changing seasons of agriculture and nature. In our fragmented digital world, what simple steps can we all take to reconnect with these timeless circles and seasons? So the next paintings are in the church, which is normally open apart from Monday for the cafe. Obviously busy on a Sunday, but should be open today. Let's have a look. In the church I found the paintings in the side aisle, and they were standing on the keyboard down at the front of the church. The main picture here is called Settlement. Everyone wants a place to call home, somewhere that matters to them. The basis of this painting is a map. A map is like a magic carpet for the mind. The land on which you stand today is steeped in history. Whether you dig up the soil and find historical artifacts or dig into history archives, you will find a richly layered tapestry of Stowmarket stories, intricately woven and interwoven with the lives of countless settlers, dwellers and visitors. What stories about Stowmarket do you remember experiencing or being told?
It's about connecting people to place to nature through time. I'm not a historian, but I love thinking about footsteps in time. So a project that connects people to the place they call home, because homes are also deeply important to me. What an amazing world we live in today, in that people travel when they didn't used to. So homes are different. You might have several homes. I always say, I used to travel a lot for work and for leisure. And I always used to say, home is where you sleep that night. I once worked in Iran at the time of the revolution, and which was 1977, 78. And it was very scary at times. We used to have bomb practice and instead of fire drills in schools. I was working in a school, a community school. And so your home, I felt better inside. I felt better emotionally if I could call wherever I put my head home. And so homes are important to people. And like Stowmarket has just got such a rich history. To me, history is a place you visit. I just visit it and find out a bit and connect it to where I am now. I think it's incredible that Romans and Danes have walked the footsteps we walk in every day on this valley.
So the next painting is in the library, which is just across the churchyard. In the library, I found the paintings sitting on a table, the small one in front of the large one. The main painting in the library is called Home in the Universe and celebrates our place in the universe. The central figure is a silhouette of Grace Cook, who was a local astronomer who lived from 1887 till 1958. And the way of tracking meteors back then was sitting in a deck chair, holding a stick and a watch, and you sort of timed the meteors across the sky. Stowmarket's also been home to people like John Prentice, 1903 till 1981, who was also a keen astronomer, and the nearby Starhouse Lane in Stowmarket may be connected with some of these local astronomers.
At the time, I've never been able to find out why this was. I know that's named after Starhouse, but why did Starhouse get its name? And I haven't never found out how.
Right.
There have been 2 or 3 places locally that have been had sort of keen amateur astronomers.
Oh, okay.
And there's one up at Star Ridge at Batsford. One of the apprentices found a new planet or a new star or something.
Okay.
And that was acknowledged by the Astronomical Society. And
So the next painting is in the Pallet Bar, or the Fox Yard, and you could go back into the marketplace, but you can just come down this little passageway or come in through the back of the Fox Yard and find the next paintings. Just while we're walking, here's the origin of this art project. And my fascination with this field started many years ago. I was just walking along Finber Road here. I wasn't sure, can't remember where I was going, and the hedges were much higher than they are now, and this land hadn't been touched for, I don't know, decades, I reckon. And I kept seeing this just through the hedges and the little gate, an old blue caravan. And on this particular day, I saw it many times, but on this particular day, there was just a little bit of smoke coming out of the chimney, so I knew someone lived here. I didn't know anything about them, but fascinated that someone obviously just lived off grid. They had a field, I don't know if they owned it or rented it or whatever, but they got their caravan in a field and they were living off grid and minding their own business. As I later found out from Judith Thomason, it wasn't just one person that lived here, but there were 3.
There were 3 actually.
Oh, were there 3?
Yeah, there were 2 other caravans.
And then this old railway carriage, which fascinates me really. And it was brother and sister. I think he was a carpenter.
There was the father, the parents,
Oh, right. Well,
and the brother and sister were born here.
Oh, right,
They lived here for 90 years, and the whole of this meadow was part of the Danecroft land.
Right.
When we get to the end of the meadow, that gives you the whole of the parcel of land known as Danecroft. So this was sold out of Danecroft possession in 1927 by the family who then lived here. They were never seen. They were so discreet and they loved nature because of the low level of the railway carriage. The parents lived in one, and a brother and sister had one each. And Joey Barham died in 2014. And since then, it's had an uncertain future. And so from that, local people objecting to the housing proposal, then came the Stowe Stories project to say, actually, nobody knows about this valley, and yet it's a really, really important contribution to the town.
Now, I only saw the old blue caravan, and that was fascinating enough. But since that's been removed, there's actually an old railway carriage there. So I would love to know, you know, where that came from, what railway it was connected to when it used to run on railway tracks, how they got it here. I'd love to know all that, but I don't think we'll ever know that. Yes, on the ancient tithe map, every field was recorded. It had a number, and then you could look the number up and see either who owned the field or the meadow, and what the meadow was called. And this plot here was called Tinklers Meadow, and going back a long time, it was part of Danecroft Estate, the big house that used to be on Fimber Road that's no longer there. But on the tithe map it's known as Tinklers Meadow.
It's not appropriate that this project ends. There's no resolution to Tinklers Meadow. And a quest is a search. A quest is also about action. For me, the outcome had to be about encouraging, supporting individuals, people, groups, organised to take their own action. So it's not about telling someone what to do, it's about inspiring, trying to inspire and encourage people to value their home, value Stowmarket, value the environment so much that they want to do something.
So as you walk up the passage, you'll come to this entrance into the fox yard, and we turn right into there. The paintings here are just in this, one's in this passageway, one's in the front on the street. The main painting here is called Reflect and Hope. This painting speaks of sadness and hope. It pictures several people or images of people who've defended the land down the centuries, including a young girl at the start of the campaign for Tinklers Meadow. In times past, the land was threatened by war and invasion, but in our day it can be about wildlife habitat being destroyed by housing developments. The images are about how we support one another and help each other defend what is good.
The two logos that feature in the painting are the hourglass on the top right hand side, which has obvious symbolic significance of time running out, for protecting our planet. The other logo, I think, is the Rattlesden River Network, isn't it? Which is that sort of, well, to me it was a sort of double significance, because the shape of the actual logo to me had a positive and a negative, which echoed the holly leaves, which I put in beside it. But I think it represents the river and the land together. So all of those elements sort of combine in the end. The other echo, if you like, is the wings of the bats, which also have that sort of shape to them. I decided to have the sprite sat looking rather forlorn on a fallen tree trunk, mourning the loss of the habitat behind. But just behind the sprite is a little robin, which is a reference to the stained glass in the church, the parish church. So, and that is again a reference in every one of the paintings to the stained glass in the church. The more open to interpretation each painting is, the better, in my view.
Yeah.
Because everybody sees aspects that other people might not, or they relate to certain parts of that painting, and those aspects might speak to them in a very different way to somebody else looking at it.
So the next painting is up at the Regal Cinema. We'll just wander up there. Just to say, if you'd like to do the trail, we have got a downloadable book with all the details of the paintings in and their locations. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can get the digital version of the book with all the paintings in and the descriptions on that link. There's also possibility of getting a hard copy. Prefer, obviously that's going to be a little bit more expensive. Along with the book, there's other things planned for this project coming in spring of 2025, and there's a link in the description below for details. Over at the Regal Cinema, I found the main painting in reception, which was easy to locate. This painting is called Life Goes On, and it's quite a deep painting. It's about life and death, really. He references sorrow and tragedy, but also speaks of hope and uplifting and commemoration. It includes images of the Stowmarket gun cotton explosion, the memorial gates with the poppies on commemorating those who fell in the two wars.
A mixture of quite violently destructive imagery of the gun cotton explosions, and war and loss and mourning, coupled with the memorial gates and hope and commemoration, which obviously implies hope for the future and so on. I think one of my favourite elements of this painting is the tree with the shoes. Yep. Dangling by their laces from the branches.
Yes, it's that a young man died in Stowmarket, a Stowmarket guy, and he was a renowned skateboarder. And this tree is behind the cafe on the wreck with the plimsolls and shoes, which his friends, best friends, they considered was a fitting memorial for him. And I really love that, because each generation has different ways of... What's important is that they will remember him. We will remember him. We will remember them. But life goes on.
So when I was faced with this this idea that Don had to possibly write a song or a few words, as a poem, maybe a song, about the gun cotton explosion, I actually started looking into it. I got hold of, was it Steve Williams' book about it, and because he was a great historian of Stowmarket and probably other places. And I read that, and I went to the library and did a bit more research there, though his had masses of stuff in there. And what happened for me was that the story of one person, this little girl called Mary Mount, came alive to me. To the point where I still find it hard to talk about it, because the reality of her life and her death at the age of 12, it was very, very sad. But it made history.
Yes.
Okay, it's recent history, but it made history come alive. And I did actually think, oh, if all history could be taught like this as song.
Many were sent to factories and fields to earn a few bob. Young Mary was 12, pulp pulling the job. At the gun cotton factory in Stowmarket daily she went.
So the next painting's just around the corner at Red Gables. Red Gables Resource Centre. Just along here beyond Cross Temple Road, it's after that entrance on the right. Over at Red Gables, I found the painting in the meeting room known as Redwoods, and I also met with Colin Lay, the manager of Red Gables, Fiona Palmer of Dimension Action Alliance, based at Red Gables, and Judith Thompson, and we took the painting outside to have a better look at it. The main painting here is called The Web of Lifelines, and is based around a spider's web spreading out from the centre, reflects the sort of marketplace in Stowmarket and all the lines that spread out from there.
The wedding picture, yes, it looks very similar to my dad was doing a family research thing, and there was a gentleman
That's so perfect.
yeah, so this is weird though, but that's the scary bit, because that if that's Sarah Miles, and well, she became a Miles, so she was Miles, and who did she marry?
And I just filled in the link, which is that it was Turner, and that's actually his son's wedding. But you know, images and information a lot from Steve Williams.
I think one of the beauties of the painting is no matter how much you talk about it, there are just constant connections. So, you know, Red Gables at one point used to be a registry office, so you've got a direct link there to weddings. You've got all of the life at Danecroft that, you know, has been shared with the snowdrops going to all of the different care homes. They will no doubt have
The wonderful thing there just demonstrates that without faces, but the positioning of the people can re-engage so many memories.
Well,
and for me, it's like for someone living with dementia, not having the faces. I mean, I immediately thought, wow, that's a connection, but that could be someone's connection again.
well, remember this is called Web of Lifelines.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the beauties of the painting is no matter how much you talk about it, there are just constant connections. So, you know, Red Gables at one point used to be a registry office, so you've got a direct link there
I didn't know that.
to weddings. You've got all of the life at Danecroft that, you know, has been shared with the snowdrops going to all of the different care homes. They will no doubt have their own connections to all of the insects that are in the painting. Lots of those people, if they're older people that have lived in Stowmarket, will probably remember Turners, certainly will remember Woolworths. There's just so many different ways of connecting stories together. So I think it's just a fantastic job.
So our final port of call is the Food Museum. Not familiar with the area, just head for Asda. It's right opposite Asda. One of the purposes of this art trail is to stimulate memories and thoughts, you know, perhaps even about stuff that's not even in the paintings. But what if you grew up here, what are your memories of the area? What are your memories of the nature of the town? What are your memories of significant events in the town? Over at the Food Museum, the pictures were easy to find as they were in the main reception and shop area. This painting imagines rising up above Stowmarket and seeing the whole landscape from an aerial viewpoint. The painting includes Suffolk's famous farmyard emblems, the trinity of Suffolk Punch, Suffolk Ram and Redpole cattle. And it also at the top has a sort of necklace or a garland of beautiful village signs. What story elements would you include in a village sign for where you live?
Yeah, we've kind of got an aerial view of Stowmarket in the middle, which lifts the whole thing literally. into the sky. We've also got very rural themes. We've got farm animals and wildlife and wildflowers, and we've got a sort of, for want of a better word, a garland of the local village signs, all sort of joined together.
But in every painting we also wanted something of Danecroft Cottage, Danecroft where the villa was, this land including Tinklers Meadow. And on this painting there's two things, that there's strawberries and a cabbage leaf, and there's a gate in this one, and the strawberries and the chap who lived in this cottage 200 years ago was called John Finter and lived and brought up a family. But there was a tragic story of his niece falling off a gate and being killed. Really tragic. But then this has all been a public footpath for hundreds of years coming past the cottage. And John Finter, I think because he had that tragedy and other tragedies in life, he was known as a really kind man. And whenever particularly children passed by, he would give them a little gift. And one of the gifts was strawberries and a cabbage leaf. And that just, such a lovely thing that happened right on our doorstep. And the Suffolk Trinity are there, which again is symbolic of us being running along the valley from the Food Museum. And also we have tawny owls that have been bred in the box, and the otters, finding that we had otters and bringing them back and making sure they thrive was fantastic.
We ended up with a collection of paintings that do trigger storytelling, and I think that's the key.